So does the BRRRR method still work in this market? The short answer is yes, of course. It actually works in any market. But let's slow it down and explain why, especially for you out there who are new to the BRRRR method. The most important thing for you to understand with BRRRR is the math does not change. You still need to know your numbers before you buy. You still force appreciation or create wealth, not transfer it. And you're still refinancing based on today's values, not the past. And you still let rent and time do the heavy lifting. Yes, markets move, rents move, rates move, everything is moving, but the math stays the same. The people in this game are still winning. We have a client who's been a client for 3 years. She started, her and her husband, with nothing. Now they have a little over 44 doors, all with the BRRRR method. And what she's done, she just changed her approach. She is out there looking for properties in any area that she can. And one of the last properties she picked up was actually, let's just call it a gift. It's almost like something that happens when you're active in the BRRRR community. She got a property that the city had taken over for tax reasons. They had ended up with property. They did not want the property. They wanted back on the tax rolls. They wanted fixed up back there. So they knew she was active. They knew she was working in her community trying to fix up properties. And they reached out to her and said, here's this great deal. She picked up a property that purchased, rehab all in under 50%. So BRRRR is not dead. There's people still creating wealth out there with BRRRR. But what has changed with the BRRRR method over the last 10, 15 years? We've been doing BRRRR before it was called BRRRR. I remember back in the day where we were helping people get 10, 12 properties in a year, great properties, all that fit under BRRRR. That is not what's happening right now because rates have changed. Home prices have changed. They've increased. And the number of properties available has also changed. There's less properties available over the last 2, 3, or 4 years. And that means we just need to look at BRRRR differently. Now it's more about preparation. It's about knowing your numbers, testing your numbers, and making sure you buy right. Because even though the math hasn't changed, other things that have changed that you have to adjust to. And once again, in some markets and sometimes there's plenty of properties out there. There is a lot of properties that fit in BRRRR. But in this time, in the last few years, BRRRR takes time. It takes preparation. It takes testing. It takes knowing your numbers and being patient to create wealth. Because remember what BRRRR is. It's all about buying value-added properties, putting the work into it, and bringing them up to market. What it's not is retail buy. Retail is all about having money. It's having money in your savings and just transferring it over. It's having that $50,000 to $200,000 sitting there and using it for every time you purchase a property. It's about buying properties that don't need all this work. It's not about value adding. It's all about having the money and wanting to buy rental properties. I see some people out there, one lady's calling it the cake method, which is just retail shopping for real estate investing, building your wealth. And for a few people, that's great. Brings up another story. I have many different kinds of clients. And one of them, I remember they were buying properties. They were buying, 4 at a time, 5 at a time. And it was unique. It was unique for me to see because they were buying properties that they were transferring their wealth over because they had a different reason. They had a different motivation. Their motivation was to use depreciation, some of those loss, to kick them into a lower tax bracket. So they paid less taxes now. Plus, their look is in 20 or 30 years, they're going to have some properties and they'll be paid off. And then they transition from, being employed to being an investor. But at this point, they are more retail shoppers. They are more retail buyers. But that's not what BRRRR buyers are. BRRRR and then BRRRR investors, the other 95%, they're value add. They're looking at creating wealth, buying something that's undervalued because, someone inherited a property or they just don't want to fix it up. For example, we just had a client who bought a property that had lightning damage. There was a big hole in the roof of this property that actually damaged multiple floors. So the insurance company came in, settled, paid off the mortgage company so they could sell it at a discount because they didn't want anything to do with fixing this up. The investor came in, they got a great property. They were able to buy a property at a big discount. Why? Because of this unique situation. So BRRRR is the opposite of retail. Retail is just transferring money from your savings account over to a property. BRRRR is about creating wealth. It's about creating wealth by putting in the work, preparing, testing your numbers, making sure you're getting into good deals and doing the work to find those good deals. It doesn't matter if it's a hot market, if it's a cold market, if it's something where there's a lot of inventory or very little. It just works at different speeds, different velocities. Another reason that BRRRR is perfect for this market is if there's a little decline, BRRRR protects you, has a little cushion in there. What do I mean by that? Let's look at a couple examples of the retail buyer compared to the BRRRR buyer. On a retail transaction, say someone picks up a property that today's value is worth $250,000. You're buying it fixed up, ready to go. What they do when they purchase a property like that is they take $50,000, which is 20% of the purchase, and they move it over to help buy the property. So they have a house that's worth $250,000, a loan for $200,000, and they have $50,000 that they transferred over. Now compare that to someone who's buying a BRRRR property, a true BRRRR property, someone who is patient, who's prepared, and picks up the right properties. That same $250,000 property, they're going to buy all in 75%. That means you have a property that you have a loan for about $187,000. So you've built some paper equity there. What happens when that market, or if that market decreases? Markets go up, markets go down. But when markets go down and you're buying retail, you lose real net worth. Because remember, you just transferred that money over from savings. We have a property that was worth $250,000. It drops 10%. Now it's worth $225,000. Now remember, you have a loan for $200,000. You move $50,000 over, but now it's only worth $225,000. The person who bought it with retail, the cake method, whatever you want to call it, just lost $25,000 in real wealth. $250,000 invested. It's only worth $225,000. You've lost real net worth, at least for this period. Now take the BRRRR. Remember, they owe $187,500. The rest is just sweat equity, built-in equity, value-add equity, whatever you look at. And the property temporarily for a year or two goes down to that $225,000. All they've really lost is paper equity. It's not money that's coming out of their savings or retirement or anything else like that. It's just money that fluctuates, just like any stock or bond goes up, goes down, but there's really no true loss in wealth, especially when markets adjust. And that's just an added built-in cushion with BRRRR. It protects you when markets shift or shift down. So in this current market, who is BRRRR really for? It's for the other 95% who don't have or don't want to move money over from savings. Maybe they don't have savings. Maybe they don't want to wait 1, 2, or 3 years to accumulate enough to buy properties. They're willing to trade work and time and being prepared instead of accumulating the money and moving it over. They're looking for real value-add properties that they could BRRRR. And as mentioned, it is really for the prepared, the people who understand each step in BRRRR, from the buy to the rehab. What does that mean? What does that transition mean? Who are the team members I need? Understanding everything so they have confidence, clarity as they move from step to step, who put in the time, and most important, runs their numbers. They understand if a property, if a market is going to return what they want, which is either income, growth, or both. And if you're looking to run those numbers, we have a free calculator. Check the link below. I believe you should be testing every market, every property before you put it under contract, before you put any earnest money down. And why? Because you want to make sure that that property is going to produce what you want. Remember, real estate investing, especially BRRRR, is a numbers game. You need to know your numbers. You need to stick with your numbers, especially when you're out there looking at buying. Don't let the emotions take over. You need to be prepared. You need to have that steady growth mindset. So here's how BRRRR works in real life, in this market, in any market. Number one, get clear on your numbers. What do you want BRRRR to do? Do you want income now? Do you want just to create wealth for the future? Or do you want a little bit of both? Number two, you have to be someone who is willing to run the numbers. Test your numbers. Understand each process. You have to understand the buy process, the rehab process, the rent process, making sure the income works, the refinance process. You have to understand every step of it so you feel comfortable going through it. And why? Because you want to stick with your numbers. BRRRR works when you know your numbers and you stick with it. And it comes down to sifting through as many properties as you can to find the ones that work for you. Because if you're looking at BRRRR, if you're serious about BRRRR, you really need to let everyone know, not just the wholesalers, not just the realtors, not the other investors too, but family, friends, people at church. It's people in your social groups. It's anybody and everyone should know what you're looking to do. And here's an example, and this story is not unique. But just a month ago, I had someone come in here, someone I've done business with before, but who's kind of retired. Someone approached him at church and said, hey, I'm moving. I'm actually moving out of the country. I've had this property for a while. It needs some work, and I could go through and fix it up, or I could just bless someone else. Basically, offer his house for what he owed on it. And when we're talking owed on it, he's probably at 55, 60% ARV. He's talking about after repair value under 70%. These things really happen. They don't happen every day. They don't happen even every month. But if you let enough people know, the wholesalers, the retailers, family, friends, what you're looking for, and you're consistent and persistent and let time take over, you will find really good BRRRR properties. Because at any time, someone could end up with a property they don't want, or know someone who has a property they don't want, or needs to get out of a property they don't want to have. Yes, guess what? This is going to take some work. It's going to take some hustle. It's going to take you putting in the time, but it doesn't have to be a 40-hour work week. If you actually focus, do the work, reach out, find people, you will, in this market and every market, find good BRRRR properties. In this market, what do I tell people? I do the 1, 2, 3 plan. If you're new to BRRRR, let's locate one good property, one property that meets BRRRR, which is 100% financing. No money in it once you've done refinancing. Let's put the effort, let's put the time in to prepare, to know your numbers, and to locate and buy that first property. That's year one. Year two is now that you kind of understand the process and you have more people who know that you're looking for transactions and deals, go to 2 properties your second year. The third year, it's 3. Why? Because more people know you're looking, you know what you're looking for, you know the process, and you're going to be in a situation where deals will start coming and close a lot faster for you. And once again, it gets easier and easier because now people are going like, hey, I remember that they're looking for a property. I have come across a property I don't want or someone else doesn't want. It may be a great fit. It gets easier as you go on. And after 3 years, you may have enough. And it might be where you want to stop or you want to keep going now that you have created momentum. Let's look at some numbers for 1, 2, 3. Let's just say you're on average buying properties that are ARV'd at $250,000. You're buying 6 properties over 3 years. That's 25% of equity you're creating by buying value-add properties. So for each property, that's a little over $62,000, $62,500 in equity you've created based on that value. Do that 6 times, you have $375,000 in created wealth equity. And over time, that's just going to keep getting better because you're paying down on that mortgage. That's more than most Americans, the majority of Americans, have for retirement, just that amount. But you've also built income. You've also built a system now that is going to keep increasing as far as balances going down. Yeah, markets may come up, markets may go down, even if nothing changes. And you get those paid off, and you get to retirement, and you have 6 properties at $250,000. That's $1.5 million in assets that you could use in multiple ways. So you could either sell it, you could refinance, get some money out, or you could just let them be and take the income and just have it as a portion of your retirement. BRRRR works. It works now. It worked in the past. It just depends on the velocity, the preparation, the numbers you're going to run, and the number of people you're willing to talk to. It's really no hype. It's just math and time. BRRRR isn't something you should fear. It's something to understand, test, and get comfortable with before you start putting, properties under contract, before you start giving earnest money, before it becomes a stressed out liability. Make sure you're prepared. Do your dry runs. Test your numbers. Run through each step of BRRRR. Be prepared before you buy. Get one good property. That's a lot better than 3 or 4 bad properties that just stress you out. Slow wealth beats fast mistakes every time. You just got to stay in the game and be prepared for the game. The long run will get you what you want. So don't be afraid of BRRRR. Jump into BRRRR, but test your numbers. Remember that calculator below. You can become wealthy. You can become rich with real estate. It just takes some time. And it takes some effort. And stick with us for more BRRRR DSCR, which goes great with BRRRR and even fix and flips. Subscribe, like, and we'll catch you on the next video.